too close to you, Doug. Doug! Did you know that today is the anniversary of the disappearance of Amelia Earhart?
I did not.
Do you want to hear my Amelia Earhart joke?
Probably not.
Oh, never mind. It never lands.
Too soon. Too soon.
Welcome to the Diehards. With training camps just around the corner, fantasy football season is officially heating up. While everyone out there is debating rookies and busts, we're zeroing in on something even more important. True difference makers. These are the players that won't just fill a roster spot, they'll carry your team to a championship. I am your host, JJ Wenner, and I am joined by the fantasy orthocle himself, Doug Orth. Now, our guest for tonight is one of my favorite people. I get to see him every year at the Expo. As the godfather of IDP, he is more Vito than Michael. You can find his work at Bleacher Report and Football Guys, and he will make you a trade offer you can't refuse. It is Gary Davenport.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary.
It's good to see you guys, even after that horrible Amelia Earhart joke.
Oh, that was one of our better ones.
Oh,
Yeesh.
wow.
Eesh. All right. So, Doug, is there anything that the good people should know before we begin?
Well, be ready for a night of batching, I guess. That's not in the show script, but I'm imagining there'll be insults hurled. But other than that, I don't think there's anything that good people should know other than stay tuned and learn something and be entertained.
Are you not entertained? All right. Before we hit start, Jody Smith and the team at Full Time Fantasy have done the heavy lifting once again. The 36th edition of the Pro Forecast magazine is about to hit the presses, packed with expert analysis, rankings, and draft strategies. It's your blueprint for dominating fantasy football in 2025. Be sure to tune in all summer long for your chance to win a free copy and crush your competition. All right, gentlemen, it was fun watching the two of you spar in our group chat prior to the show. So let's jump into it. Gary, who was your first league-winning quarterback?
This guy, by the end of the summer, I'm probably not going to feel as good about him, honestly. It's Justin Fields of the New York Jets, because his ADP is already starting to creep up. You know, I can remember a time not that long ago when it was in the QB 15 range. Now I'm seeing him drafted in the top 10 as often as not. But that rushing upside, I mean, it's just, 1,100 something odd yards a few years ago in Chicago. And last year, as bad as he was made out to be in Pittsburgh, over that 6-week span where he was the starting quarterback for the Steelers, he was 6th among quarterbacks in fantasy points. I mean, that's not bad.
Not bad at all. You can get him right now at pick 103 is his ADP. Doug, where are you on Justin Fields?
I'm a believer, and I'm sure we'll talk about somebody down the road why I'm a believer, but Gary laid it out already. I mean, this is the rushing upside. I mean, we talked about him on the Scott Fish Bowl preview last week. I was happy to get him in the 6th round there, but we're talking about a guy with 1,000-yard rushing upside, which is, and not just upside, he's already done it. So I don't think Tyrod Taylor, we're worried about him stealing the job. He'll come in if Fields gets hurt, but outside of that, even if Fields doesn't know more than pass for 3,000 yards, again, we're talking the rushing upside. QB 10, I think QB 10 is easily within the range of outcomes.
All right, sir. Well, who was your first quarterback, Doug?
Okay, so what if I told you there was a quarterback going in round 9 or 10 that has QB3, QB3, and QB6 finishes on his resume over the last 3 seasons. He has played every game. I suppose there within lies the rub with Dak Prescott, but the point remains the same. In his last 3 healthy seasons, he's accounted for at least 33 touchdowns each year and 38 touchdowns twice. While I have yet to talk to anyone who is stoked about Brian Schottenheimer taking over the offense in Dallas, there are at least 3 reasons fantasy managers should want to buy into Prescott. Number 1, George Pickens' arrival gives CeeDee Lamb his first legitimate running mate since Amari Cooper was traded to Cleveland after the 2021 season. In Cooper's last year with the Cowboys, Prescott threw for 4,449 yards and 37 touchdowns in 16 games. I'm not quite ready to say Pickens is now where Cooper was at his prime, but I feel confident in saying 26-year-old CeeDee Lamb is better than 22-year-old Lamb. Jake Ferguson is at least as good as 25-year-old Dalton Schultz was then. And we throw in Jadon Blue. Jadon Blue is no Ezekiel Elliott, but he's more of a dynamic threat in the passing game. That's number 1. Number 2, speaking of Elliott, there's no running back like him on the roster. Furthermore, Dallas's offensive line is improving, but it's still a work in progress compared to what it usually is. I feel confident in saying the Cowboys will have little choice but to throw the ball more often because they don't have an Elliott or a Tony Pollard on the roster. Hell, for that matter, they don't even have Tyron Smith or Zach Martin. Third and final point, while I'm not sure the defense will be as bad as it was last year, I'm not sure it will be on par with some of the defenses Dallas has had over in this decade either. DeMarvion, Overshown, and Trayvon Diggs are both recovering from serious injuries, and the team has done little to address its inability to stop the run. In short, Cowboys may be playing in negative game script more often than it usually has with a healthy Prescott. So I'm saying there should be plenty of volume in the passing game. Prescott's being drafted as a high-end QB2 as the QB14 overall, but there is a world where he posts a top 7 finish.
That's it?
That's it. I'll throw it back to you.
We're rattling through my quarterback targets this year. I do not, for the life of me, understand why someone would want to draft like a top 5 quarterback, unless you're in a format like a super flex or something, because there is so much in the 8 to 15 range. There's so much potential value there. I agree with you about Prescott. If he stays healthy, he's going to smash ADP. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys are top 5 in the NFL in pass attempts. Who's going to run the ball? I mean, Javonte Williams is dead. Miles Sanders is like extra dead. And Jadon Blue is, and I agree with you about the defense. I mean, a lot of IDP folks are like pumped for Jack Sanborn this year. And I don't know what it is with the IDP community and Jack Sanborn, but just stop, guys. Stop. There's a reason why he doesn't play. He's bad.
Well, Gary, your beard is getting some love. It is glorious, but even more glorious is your next QB.
Gary's beard should have its own X account.
Hey,
well, his beard is actually bigger than his next QB.
I haven't touched this thing since the Expo last year. I mean, not a trim, nothing. I just let it. That's the great thing about having a beard and growing your hair long. All that stuff, you just quit. You're like, nah.
I wouldn't know about the hair.
Grooming's for losers. Anyway, my next quarterback went a little deeper. Bryce Young of the Carolina Panthers. I know when people think about Bryce Young, a lot of times first thing pops in their head is like 2 years ago or the beginning of last year when he got benched for it. If you get benched for Andy Dalton, that means you suck. But when he came back, he was a different guy. He was a top 10 quarterback, I think, from week 12 on last year. Quietly had, I think, half a dozen rushing touchdowns. They went and got Ted McMillan, so they upgraded the pass catchers around him, and they seem to be confident in him. He doesn't give you a ton of rushing upside, but there's a little bit there. And he's coming off the board, like 24th among quarterbacks? I think he's a great, if you're in a super flex, a great QB2 target that you can get value on.
Yeah, he's going in the 11th round, which is practically free as far as quarterbacks go. Doug, do you have any love for Bryce Young?
Yeah, I certainly do. I mean, if for no other reason, you look at some of the teams that he was playing there down the stretch when he was when his revival was starting. I mean, you have Kansas City's blitzing defense. You had Philadelphia's grade A defense. And he was, I'm not to say he was lighting them up, but he certainly was, he was startable in those weeks. So if you're doing that against Steve Spagnuolo and Vic Fangio, and then you upgrade the weapons, yeah, I'm buying. I'm buying.
Just have to make sure his head stays in the game. Right? We don't want him to tank like he did earlier in the season.
Oh.
Doug, who is your next QB?
I talked about J.J. McCarthy a few weeks ago when we had Theo Grimminger on the show, so I'll keep this one relatively short. The easiest argument to make for McCarthy is that Kevin O'Connell has massaged productive games out of career backups like Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs and guided an almost unthinkable season out of Sam Darnold last year. Each of O'Connell's three offenses in Minnesota have ranked no worse than sixth in the league in passing yards or passing touchdowns. Minnesota upgraded its offensive line with the additions of Ryan Kelly, center Ryan Kelly, and offensive guard Will Fries, which should give the Vikings one of the best offensive lines in the league. Doesn't get much better than Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson as your top three pass catchers either. And for me, the cherry on top would be McCarthy's athletic ability. While he didn't run for more than 306 yards in any season at Michigan, he rushed for at least 50 yards in 5 games during his college career. Based almost entirely on that, because we didn't see him play at all except for 17 preseason passing attempts last year. I would not be surprised if he pushed for 400 yards on the ground per season early in his career, which puts him in the Patrick Mahomes class in terms of rushing upside. McCarthy is at least in Brock Purdy's class in terms of runner, and I would argue McCarthy has a better supporting cast. Despite a lot going wrong in San Francisco last year, Purdy was the overall QB12 despite playing 15 games. Purdy threw for 3,864 yards, ran for 323 more, and accounted for 25 touchdowns. Based on that supporting cast, offensive line, and offensive environment, that should be McCarthy's floor. He's going as the QB 18 right now, but I bet he is just closer to the top 10. I'll throw it back to you guys. What do you think, Gary? Do you think you have any love for Jay?
I think he's a guy that we're going to see his ADP creep as we move through the summer.
Yeah.
As he gets out there on the field in training camp and people actually get to see him on the field and they start thinking more, like you said, about the supporting cast and the coaching staff and the upgraded offensive line. And I don't know that it's going to stay QB 18, but it could, at QB 14, he's still a potential value.
I tend to agree. I hope he doesn't get to QB 12, but I'm with you there. I'd still buy a QB 14.
There are still some names in order for him to creep all the way up there, Doug, that he would have to leapfrog. And I'm not sure how just looking at who's coming in front of him. I know Drake May's up there, Jordan Love, Herbert. There's some names up there that I don't know if he's going to actually leapfrog. But looking at the rest of the QBs, I mean, you guys mentioned 4. We avoided, of course, the top guys. Is there anybody else who you think could be a potential league winner, Gary?
Oh, everyone's talking about Drake May this summer. I mean, I think there's a lot of upside there, but a lot is going to depend on Stephon Diggs and the weapons around him. And I was just thinking, there's some dirt cheap guys like Matthew Stafford, Geno Smith, guys like that. I don't know that I'd want to be rolling those guys out every week, but if I'm platooning one as my QB2, or he's a guy I have to start 3 or 4 weeks because Tua Tagovailoa is hurt again, then I can live with that.
Sean Teague thinks Lamar Jackson could be a league winner.
Yeah,
Sean, that's a little too deep, though. That's I don't know. That's really deep dynasty league stuff there.
You know who I heard is good? Jamar Chase.
Get the hell out of here.
Yep.
Pod over. That's
a weird name.
Drop.
My scouting doesn't take anybody into account past Joe Smith or Dave Jones. So Jamar Chase is too freaking weird for me.
But as you were saying, Gary, Stafford is a guy who really intrigues me because it's weird to see a quarterback with 2 wide receivers going as top 15, who yet is still ranked as the QB 22. Something has to break there, in my opinion. Doug, do you have anybody who honorable mentions at the quarterback position?
Yeah, this is deep only because he's not going to get drafted barring some injuries or whatever. I'm not going to – my honorable mentions, I'm not saying Jalen Milroe because I'm betting against Sam Darnold, but I hope people understand 2024 was the first time in 7 seasons that Darnold played more than 13 games. For whatever reasons, and there were plenty during his time in Carolina and New York. I think Darnold will remain the starter for the season if he stays healthy, but Milroe is a cheat code for fantasy purposes. And I'll say it to wrap up here. Imagine paying last round prices for someone with the floor of Anthony Richardson, but with more upside as a passer.
Those are big claims, Doug Orth. Big claims. I don't know. Gary, do you think Sam Darnold can stay healthy behind that Seattle offensive line this year?
Not really. I know Darnold had a great year last year, but it's Sam Darnold. I can't really get behind. I can't imagine I'm going to have any shares of Sam Darnold because I'm going to go to draft him and even in Superflex, and I'm going to be like, but it's Sam Darnold.
Seeing ghosts. As a Jets fan, it's against the law for me to draft him in any leagues. All right, let's talk about some running backs. Who do you have as a league winner, Gary? Who's your first guy?
Chase Brown in Cincinnati. Love him. I love him this year. I don't think he's going to stay because right now he's going in round 3. I don't think it's good. He's going to creep into the back end of round 2 probably by the time all is said and done. But what more can you ask? He had double-digit PPR points every week from week 8 on. Every week from week 9 on, he had 90 total yards. And he was, I think, 6th in fantasy points among running backs from week 8 on. There's no real competition for touches. You know he ain't going to be seeing no stacked fronts. There are not going to be any 9-man boxes going against the Bengals offense. So, I mean, it's just the table is set. That RB11, that's a lot closer to his floor than his ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, if that offense explodes like everybody thinks it's going to, it has to be his floor. What do you think, Doug?
It's interesting that you mentioned Chase Brown, and I wasn't planning on doing this until about 30 seconds ago. But so one of the articles I'm going to do it in a few weeks. I'm writing ahead, but one of the articles that's going to be published here in a few weeks are splits that were meaningful to the last season. And Chase Brown, okay, so Zach Moss got hurt in week 8, I believe. So there were 7 full games with Zach Moss and Chase Brown together. In those games, they both averaged 10.9 fantasy points. The rushing attempts were pretty much the same. Zach Moss actually had more receiving yards, if my numbers here are correct. Chase Brown without Zach Moss, 20.9 fantasy points per game, almost 19 carries, almost 80 yards rushing, a rushing touchdown pretty much every other game. His receiving usage shot up, almost 5 catches a game for almost 40 yards. Yeah. I do like Taj Brooks. I like the fact that they brought Taj Brooks in. I know Samaje Perine could, I suppose, steal some work here and there. But yeah, I mean, that's you're betting against Chase Brown. Chase Brown was underappreciated when he's at Illinois. He was underappreciated. He's been underappreciated basically his entire college and pro playing career. I have no doubt in my mind he can handle 18 touches a game, and I think Cincinnati would be better for it if they featured him. So I'm on board.
All right. Well, Sean Teague shouts out Jordan Mason. Of course, it's because you listen to this podcast, and Doug loves Jordan Mason. Luckily, I paid Doug not to talk about him tonight because, dear Lord, we've heard about him enough.
It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough, but I'm can't get.
We still got 2 months before the season starts.
Yeah. Jordan Mason. All right, Doug. Who's your league winning running back?
Well, okay. So the original assignment was to get one guy in the first 4 rounds and one guy in 5th round and after. So this isn't a deep cut, but let me hear your arguments now against Jonathan Taylor. He misses too many games. His quarterback stinks. His offensive line isn't what it used to be. He doesn't catch enough passes. Now, I'll grant you, you might have a point in regards to his durability and receiving work, but I love this part when I turned this up in my research. But ask yourself how many running backs have averaged more than 100 total yards per game over the first 5 years of their career. My research tells me that only 28 running backs in NFL history have averaged more than Taylor's 106 total yards per game over his first 5 seasons. The only active back with more is Christian McCaffrey, about 114. Regarding the missed games issue, and that's been 16 over the last 3 seasons, 4 of them came during that slightly confusing ankle/contract situation in 2023, which resulted in him going on the PUP list. And I believe he missed 4 games that year. Regarding the quarterback situation over the last 3 years, he has averaged 99 yards per game while playing primarily with a past his prime, ready to be retired Matt Ryan, Gardner Minshew, Anthony Richardson, and Joe Flacco. Assuming Daniel Jones wins the quarterback job this summer, is Jones going to be any worse than that group? As for his offensive line, the Colts lost Ryan Kelly and Wolf Rice in the offseason. That duo combined to play 15 games last year. So what I'm saying is, if you're saying his offensive line is worse, well, it wasn't there last year either. So last year, Taylor still averaged over 100 yards rushing despite having about 3/5 of his offense line missed a ton of games. And the other guy that missed a lot of games or some games was right tackle Braden Smith. And he admitted that he was not himself most of the year with a mental health issue. If you want to read a somewhat inspiring story, actually do a search on Braden Smith and what he had to overcome last year. Because it's amazing. It's amazing that he even bothered playing football, because he should not have been playing football. Anyhow, we could argue that the only semi-normal situation Jonathan Taylor has had in 5 NFL seasons was in 2021 when Carson Wentz was his quarterback. So, yeah, call that normal if you would, right? That year, he led the league in rushing. This season is at least on par with that one in terms of likely quarterback play, offensive line, and supporting cast. While there is risk in Taylor getting hurt again, but there's risk with every running back, we were talking about one of the few true workhorse running backs going in the later half of the second round. What say you, Godfather IDP?
Oh, I don't mind Taylor at cost. Honestly,
Yeah.
he makes me less nervous than a lot of the really high-end running backs. I mean, I look at like the top 5 running backs this year, and I'm freaking out about 4 of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not the wide receiver guy, but if I'm sitting in the front half of round 1 this year, I'm probably taking a wide receiver. And then I can circle back around in round 2, like you said, and get Taylor as my RB1, and everything's all right.
Yeah, Taylor, on the Rider Dynasty podcast, we were doing some awards last week. Shameless plug. Thursdays at 8 p.m., Fantasy and Friends. And he received my Denny Green Award for he is who we think he is. He is who we think he is, right? He is a low-end RB1, and that's what he's always going to do. Like, he is so consistent in what he puts out every year. And like Doug said, it doesn't matter the trash that's in front of him or behind him, or depending where he's lined up. I mean, that quarterback situation is garbage. Pure garbage. So Daniel Jones, I think, is going to be the best thing he has seen in quite a while. Gary, who do you have next?
Well, went a little deeper. Are we sure that Kenneth Walker is the best running back in Seattle? Are we? Do we really know that? Because on a per touch basis last year, Zach Charbonnet was better. Zach Charbonnet has been, over his career, more durable than Kenneth Walker. And given Walker's injury history, I think at some point this year, Charbonnet is going to be the RB1 for the Seahawks. So at cost, Walker's another guy that at cost, I'm like, yeah. But Charbonnet a lot later in drafts, that's kind of zero RB drafters, I would think, would be just smashing Zach Charbonnet all summer long.
Yeah, we like Charbonnet here, don't we, Doug?
Yeah, but Gary's risking being thrown off the show for disparaging Kenneth Walker. So, no.
Did I hurt him's feelings?
No, my biggest problem with Kenneth Walker is the durability. I think I'm not against Charbonnet, by the way. I think what they're talking about doing in Seattle is focusing more on that outside zone. And I don't think that Charbonnet is a particularly good outside zone runner. With that said, we don't care if Walker gets hurt. We don't care that Charbonnet may not be a good outside zone runner. I think Clint Kubiak is adaptable enough to just basically pound Charbonnet into the ground, which is what's been happening in Seattle basically every time that Walker gets hurt. Is Charbonnet gets not run into the ground, but gets featured. So. I'm with you. I'm with you on valuing Charbonnet. I just had to make a comment on the Kenneth Walker
slander.
Thank you. Yes,
you're welcome. I'll jump in and help you out there.
Take me for it. You got no proof. You got no evidence. It's not like this was recorded or something.
Yeah. Drew Davenport's not on the show. That's the wrong Davenport for a legal case. I mean, not that Gary hasn't seen the inside of a courtroom.
Oh, wow.
Oh, hey, that was a misunderstanding.
Both times. All right, Doug, you are up next.
No, I think we need to hear more about Gary's past.
You do not worry about that. We do not talk about Bruno.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, yeah.
All right, hold on. No.
I ain't shy.
Let's go, Gary.
So I got the court date. We won't say what the court date is for.
No.
But a guy gets called up because, it's one of those things where they're calling up 15, 20 people and just banging out traffic citations and whatever. And for whatever reason, I think this guy was up for domestic violence or something. He just goes off on the judge. I mean, calls him every blankety blank and blank word in the book. And I'm sitting there like, please, God, don't let me be next. Please, God, don't let me be next. Please, God, don't let me be next. I was next. The judge took a look at the plea that I had agreed to on the misunderstanding that I was involved in and threw it out. I wound up having to pay like 3 times as much as I was going to have to, all because some guy had cussed out the judge. I didn't even have nothing to do with it.
Oh, jeez.
Stab a guy 30 times, and this is what you get.
Yeah.
It was 24 times.
And it was with a spoon. It wasn't even with a knife.
It was a spork.
Oh. That's cruel and unusual punishment. 8th Amendment right there. Doug, you're up next.
Well, just to make JJ happy, I contemplated going with Jordan. I did.
You have never said that before.
Oh, well, just to make JJ upset.
Thank you.
Is that better? Just to make JJ upset, I contemplated going with Jordan Mason again. But regular viewers of the show already know how I feel about his upside. He also needs something to happen in front of him to reach his league-winning ceiling. My guy, or at least the guy I'm going to talk about for the next couple minutes, Caleb Johnson, does not need anything special outside of justifying the faith that his coaching staff already has in him. Okay, more research for you. I look back at each of the last 6 seasons, or each of the 6 seasons that Arthur Smith has called plays. Over that stretch, only once did his offense not run the ball at least 445 times. 4 times that number exceeded 520. Now, as JJ would tell you, while 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers is certainly an upgrade, or maybe kind of, okay. Well, Rodgers is certainly an upgrade over the likes of some of the quarterbacks Smith has played with over the years, or coached over the years, I should say. We're not talking about a guy who's playing at NFL MVP level anymore. Point to be made here is that while I think Smith will cater to Rodgers a bit, JJ would never. While I think Smith will cater to Rodgers a bit, this is a team that will still want to run the ball a healthy amount. Even if we assume 500 pass attempts, something that's only happened twice under Smith and something that seems unlikely given how few players that after DK Metcalf deserve any reasonable number of targets, that probably leaves the running game, or leaves the offense with at least 500 carries to split between Caleb Johnson, Jaylen Warren, and Kenneth Gainwell. Now, Warren has topped out at 149 carries over his first 3 seasons. Gainwell's high water mark is 84. That comes out to 233 carries. So even if we project a healthy bump in that, even if we say 275, that should leave Johnson with at least a 225 carry floor. Never mind the fact that Johnson is a great fit for the zone run scheme that Arthur Smith prefers. Never mind the fact that Najee Harris, whose role Johnson is expected to fill, handled at least 255 carries every year as a Steeler. Never mind the fact Johnson offers more big playability than Harris did. Harris never finished lower than the RB23 over his 4-year career in Pittsburgh. Johnson is being drafted at his floor as the RB26 at the beginning of the 7th round, if he stays healthy, despite the strong likelihood that he will do better than 4.1 yards per carry, which was Harris's best mark over his 4 years. And Johnson will probably be the goal line back as well. If Johnson does what virtually every big back in Pittsburgh has done during the Mike Tomlin era and ends up being featured at some point in November or December, he has a very good chance of producing like a top 15 running back during the fantasy playoffs. You have anything to add, Gary?
Oh, no, I like among the rookie running backs, given their asking prices, Johnson's probably my favorite. And again,
Yeah.
I'm an Ohio State slappy, so I've watched a lot of Big Ten football. The kid can play. You mentioned, Najee Harris just fell forward every down, but even he put up RB2 numbers. There's a path. I'm not saying it's a wide path. I'm not saying this is likely. I'm saying I would not be completely stunned if Caleb Johnson wound up the most productive rookie running back in 2025. That's right. I said it.
You did say it right here on the air. Caleb Johnson, RB1, overall potential.
Yep.
No, I said rookie RB1.
No, I know.
He said
Which
to
I
the
know
moon. He said, go ahead.
By August, Janty's ADP is probably going to be RB1 anyway. People done lost their minds. Shiny new toy, shiny new toy, shiny new toy.
Can we clip that? Can we clip you?
Go ahead. Every year with rookies, it's like he's a great player, but people just lose it. And then when that rookie doesn't, catch 2,000 receiving yards, then Marvin Harrison Jr. is a bum, and he's dead.
But for the rest of us, it then makes their ADP drop, and we can also get them in dynasty leagues and trades because people give up. Yeah. They forget. Like us old guys know, it used to take rookies a while, right? Like rookies used to not really play a lot in the NFL.
Oh yeah, we used to avoid rookie tight ends like the plague.
Oh, and second year, you had to wait for the third year for them to break out.
Largely rookie receivers as well, but yeah,
Yeah, you had to wait for that year 3 breakout. Everyone was doing columns on which third-year receiver is going to break out. And then the likes of Jefferson and Chase and everyone starts showing up, and they're just go crazy right out the gate and make expectations unreasonable.
And I hate unreasonable expectations. Speaking of unreasonable, Sean Teague wants to know, is anybody into Etsy this year? No? Hello? Is this thing on?
No.
Hello? No? Nobody's...
I mentioned ETN in an article at Bleacher Report earlier.
Well, of course you did. You write 12,000 articles a week.
No, I mentioned him. I think there could be some value there. I'm not necessarily ready to anoint Tank Bigsby.
Yeah.
The RB1 there. And Bashal Tootin.
Well, Doug loves Doug loves Bashal Tootin. And that dude cannot hold on to a ball. It's like it's covered in Crisco when he's running.
He fumbled like 37 times in college.
I like Tootin as a prospect. Let's cool it on his first year 1 production here.
Rootin' Tootin' Bashal
Tootin. That's right.
Pew pew pew. All right. Go ahead.
No. All I was say, I think Jacksonville, that'll be a frustrating 3-way committee, even sometimes 4-way committee. Would not surprise me if if Etienne is the top scorer in that backfield 6 times, Bigsby 4 times, and Tootin 3 times, and hell, LeQuint Allen, he give him a couple. So I think that offense is going to be frustrating this year. I think we could see Tootin. Not cool, Sean. Not cool. All right.
Oh, we forgot Gary. It was Doug's birthday a couple days ago. Did you know that?
No.
Do you want to know? It was June 30th.
Oh,
and Doug turned 52 years old this year. 52.
Yeah. I wasn't around to see Amelia Earhart crash, so
if it makes you feel any better, I'm older than that. So,
oh, dear Lord!
First of all, there is no older than that,
and yet I'm here.
All right, let's talk about some honorable mentions.
Birthday, Doug.
He's only 49. I lie. I try to make him seem older and more mature.
Oh well, 50 is no big deal. The only one that really upset me was 30, because then it felt like, damn it, I'm not young anymore. 40, I didn't care. Now I'm just, every birthday is just one step closer to the sweet embrace of death. So,
amen. Every day I wake up and I go, oh
yeah, I'm still alive.
God damn it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding everybody out there. Let's talk about honorable mentions before we.
And that's what potting with me will do to a guy.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah.
I pray for death usually around this point of every pod.
Go ahead, Gary. Let's hear some honorable mentions. Let's get back on track.
I put Javonte Williams in there just because I'm stupid. Charlie Brown running in a football, knowing full well Lucy's going to pull it away at the last second. However, I do really like Alvin Kamara this year. I think he is. I know the Saints are terrible, and it's going to be a bad football team, but someone's going to have to get touches. And I mean, you look at the quarterback situation and the overall situation in New Orleans last year, and it's not like it was good, and Kamara was a top 10 guy. So I think if you can get Alvin Kamara as your RB2, you are going to be happy.
I like that. Doug, any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I went with 3, but I'm not going to go chapter and verse with really any of them, except for maybe the last one. I had Tyjae Spears, number 1 there is, I think that not only are they talking again about having him share the load with Tony Pollard, I think we saw at the end of last season what they want that backfield to be. And so I forget where he's going. Probably at least 7th round, probably more like 8th, 9th round.
128.
Oh, so 10th, 11th. Okay. Yeah, so if you can get him as RB4, RB5, I think you're gold. Trey Benson is a popular sleeper, so I'm not going to go too crazy there. The one I'm going to encourage most, one I'm going to probably be taking in the last round of most drafts, assuming that he doesn't just blow it up in the preseason, is Kyle Monangai. And not only do you hear the positive, the requisite positive publicity from what he did in minicamp and whatever, but we can't just automatically assume that Ben Johnson's going to go with the same two-headed attack in his backfield now that he did in Detroit. But DeAndre Swift is not a feature back. He's not a disciplined runner. They need, and that offense, one of the things that offense did was get good guard play. They might have actually the best set of guards in the league now. Kyle Monangai runs in between the tackles. DeAndre Swift does not. So if he can beat Roschon Johnson, and that's I think that's a low bar to clear. I never was really a big fan of Roschon Johnson. He tested well at the combine, obviously, but that was about all he did. I think Monangai's got 700-800 yard rushing upside and anywhere from 6 to 10 touchdowns. I think he's a ridiculous value at the end of drafts.
Oh, let me write that. How do you spell that?
M-O Ongai.
K-Y-L-E. Kyle.
Oh. Every year there are rookies that enter the league, and I just look at their name and I'm like, oh man, how the hell am I supposed to
be happy? Be happy you don't follow the NBA or NBA draft. Good freaking Lord. You want to talk about names you can't spell.
No, you know how long it took me to, and I'm probably still doing it right, JT Tuimoloau?
Yeah, Tuimoloau, yeah.
Yeah, I used to, for his first 2 years at Ohio State, I just called him JT Tuimoloau.
Anyway.
Yes, sir.
Let's go on to wide receivers. Gary.
Well, I already mentioned this guy. Everybody hates him now, and I don't understand why everybody hates him after 1 year. I mean, he caught 62 passes for 885 yards and 8 touchdowns, which tied a rookie franchise record for the Arizona Cardinals. Not for
Suck.
Yeah, I know. He's awful. And last year, I was telling people, you guys got Marvin Harrison Jr. ranked too high. You cannot just expect a guy to hit the ground, be a wide receiver 1 right off the jump. Now they're like, he's mid-range wide receiver 2. He's got a year NFL experience under his belt. Him and Kyler Murray were working out in the offseason together. Harrison has put on some weight, added a little bulk. And it's not like Marvin Harrison forgot how to play football somewhere between Columbus, Ohio, and Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, this time a year ago, last April, in April of 2024, we were calling him the best overall prospect in that draft class. And now he's me. So I'm going to be – I think I had 1 share of Harrison last year. I will have several more in 2025.
All right. Well, hold on a second. Let's do a pause. We're getting some complaints, Gary, that we're not talking at all about IDP. Doug, just to let everybody out there know, diehards, Doug said he would quit the show if we did an IDP show.
Oh, well.
He threatened us.
And when are we scheduling that then?
Oh, listen, right now. Who is your sleeper linebacker this year?
Oh, that's a hard one right off the jump. Terrell Dodson in Miami. Terrell Dodson in Miami, because from all indications, I mean, Jordan Brooks was fantastic last year for the Dolphins. Finished, I think, 4th or 5th among linebackers in fantasy points. He did not wear the helmet communicator. They had a few different guys that did it, and once the Dolphins acquired Dodson, he wore the dot. I expect he will again this year. And, anytime you get that guy with full-time role, and Dodson has shown he can be a relatively productive. I'm not saying he's going to come out and put up top 10 numbers, but, flirting right around the edge of, say, the top 25, low-end LB2, high-end LB3, yeah, I'll buy that, and you'll be able to get him way later than that.
What do you think of Jamie Sherwood from the Jets this year?
Oh, he had a fantastic year last year. The problem is this year you're going to have – I mean, last year he won people leagues. This year you're going to have to pay retail. You get no discount on – Quincy Williams might actually wind up being the better value, if only because you can get him so much later. Sherwood's not going to make it out of the top 10 linebackers in most drafts.
Yeah, Mosley was the one guy who every year he played well, but he always fell out of the top 10 in drafts. So you could always get him a little bit later. And fortunately, enjoy your retirement, CJ. Doug, who's your first wide receiver?
Well, I have to remember who I'm potting with this week. We know that this is a Jets podcast, so we have to appease.
Always is.
We have to appease JJ every week. We also know that this week. We also know this week it's an Ohio State podcast because Gary's on the show. Well, who meets those qualifications? Garrett Wilson. And I'm going to say a coworker and friend of mine shared with me a great quote about football being like church. I don't recall exactly how he said it, but the implication was that millions of people watch football and attend church, but only a relative few truly understand what they're witnessing. I feel that way year after year with Garrett Wilson. This is a player produced a 1,000-yard season as a rookie, despite playing with Zach Wilson, Mike White, and Joe Flacco. He did the same thing the following year with Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, and Tim Boyle. And he did it one more time last year, competing for targets with Devontae Adams and catching passes from 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Now, I'm not going to tell you that Justin Fields is the key to unlocking Wilson's upside, but I think we have to acknowledge that 2024 was the first semi, and I emphasize semi-normal season Wilson has had since becoming a pro. And let's be honest about that. Anybody who watched the Jets last year knows that it was far from normal, and Wilson still finished as the overall wide receiver 9. I'm not going to harp on the fact that Wilson and Fields are former college teammates, because Wilson was never the lead receiver for Ohio. He was never the clear dog for Ohio State when the two played together in 2019 and 2020. What I will emphasize is that Wilson is now the clear lead dog in what figures to be an RPO-heavy offense with an emphasis on one-read throws. Focus of those passing games are almost always the pass catcher who create early separation. With all due respect to Mason Taylor, Alan Lazard, and Josh Reynolds, Wilson is that guy. And even the most pass-agnostic teams in the league throw the ball at least 400 times. I look back 5 years, and only one team over 5 years has not thrown the ball at least 400 times in a season. So the teams are we can project at least 400 pass attempts for Fields or whoever's the quarterback. The beauty of what I believe New York will do in 2025 is this: the threat of Fields and Breece Hall, or however you think that backfield's going to play out, that the threat of that backfield will force teams to respect the run threat and should force defenses to play Wilson straight up. The lack of viable competition for targets should mean Wilson is the primary or only read on RPOs. However, here's the most likely reason why I think Wilson will be a league winner. We don't need to draft him in the first round anymore. He can be drafted in the early third round as the wide receiver 13. That means if he does nothing more than what he's already done in some of the worst circumstances imaginable for a receiver, he can be the wide receiver 3 in a zero RB build, or wide receiver 2 for a team that goes one running back, one receiver in the first 2 rounds. Having a receiver with 160-plus target upside available in the third round should be outlawed. So I did my job and appeased both of you, but Gary first. What do you think about Garrett Wilson? Sure.
Yeah, I'm going to complain about you talking up an Ohio State guy. My sign just suddenly burst into light.
I saw that.
It was magic. I didn't even touch it or nothing. Obviously, it could feel the love. No, I think Garrett Wilson.
I'm sorry. I meant Roman Wilson, not Garrett Wilson. Not
I think that Wilson and Fields' rapport is going to matter. And granted, and saying Garrett Wilson didn't put up huge numbers at Ohio State, it didn't have anything to do with Garrett Wilson. It's just their wide receiver room is so ridiculous every year. I mean, Carnell Tate's will probably be a borderline first, second round pick next year. And he's a clear second fiddle to Jeremiah Smith, who just got paid by Adidas. I'm in on Garrett, but if I'm going to be in on Justin Fields, it would make sense that I would be in on Garrett Wilson, and I'm in on both. JJ, I don't want to get your hopes up because you're a Jets fan, and hope is a very dangerous thing for a Jets fan.
Very dangerous.
Well, I'm a Browns fan. I empathize. The Jets might not suck.
Yeah, I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing with you there. I like what they did on the offensive line. I like the running backs. I like Fields behind a solid offensive line, and I like Garrett Wilson. So, but I've been disappointed before, so I'm just going to stay quiet and hope to be surprised. Speaking of being surprised, who is your next wide receiver, Gary?
Honestly, I just did this because I want to talk about pink cocaine.
Hence the court case.
It's Stephon Diggs in New England. I didn't even, and granted, I'm an older guy now, so I'm not as crazy as I used to be. I didn't even know pink cocaine was a thing until I saw Stephon on the boat getting his. But the Patriots appear to be okay with it. International waters is a good thing. They brought him in to be
diplomatic immunity.
Right. Drake May needs a wide receiver 1. Yes, Diggs is coming off an injury. 2 years ago, though, he went for 107 catches, 1,183 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he was 9th in PPR points. he's coming off the board, what is a low end wide receiver 3? I mean, I'll risk that just because I'm not an 8th round. If an 8th round pick sinks your draft, you have problems that go well beyond what you did in round 8.
I agree. I agree. Even about the pink cocaine. Doug, what do you feel about Diggs?
Well, he's high on pink cocaine right now. So,
Well, I have more thoughts on pink cocaine. Does that help?
Yeah, go on.
No, regarding Diggs, look, yeah, I think Gary said it great. Just if you blow your 8th round pick and that's the reason your season was sunk, yeah, your problem started in round 4 and 5 more than likely, if not earlier. So you might have to wait on Diggs, but at the price that you're getting them, you're probably getting them as a wide receiver 4. So therefore, any contributions that he gives you before the bye weeks and then certainly after the bye weeks, I won't say it should be a bonus, but we've already seen it with Diggs, and you see how he's already moving. Yeah, he's well worth a gamble in the 8th round.
And honestly, do we expect him to feel an injury?
No.
I mean, Lawrence Taylor, it kind of helped him to the Hall of Fame. So, well, let's see what it can do for Diggs. Who do you have next, Doug?
Well, I initially wanted to give a shout out to Teteroa McMillan, who I wanted to pick as my later round receiver, but I looked a couple of days ago and I see his best ball ADP is now where I think it should be at the end of the 4th round. As a result, I'm going to pivot to the one receiver I had on about 70% of my high stakes teams last year, and who is in arguably a better situation now than he was then, and that's Josh Downs. Let me begin by telling you why I think he's a league winner. A player who finished as the overall wide receiver 35 last season, again with Anthony Richardson's inaccuracy and Joe Flacco's inconsistency, is now going as the wide receiver 47 in the 8th round. Say what you will about Flacco last year, but allow me to share with you what Downs did in Flacco's 7 starts. And bear with me on this. So, on average, 7 catches on 9 targets for 66 yards. I know it doesn't sound like much, but that's a 17-game pace. That's 121 catches for 1,119 yards and 5 touchdowns, which is almost exactly what Jackson Smith and Jigba did last year, plus 20 more catches. While the threat of Tyler Warren is a real one, Warren's presence also should make Downs' job easier by taking attention away from him in the middle of the field. At this point, it seems almost fait accompli that Daniel Jones will be named the starting quarterback at Indy. Whereas Flacco is more of a deep ball thrower, Jones has not thrown more than 10% of his passes more than 20 yards down the field in a season since his rookie year in 2019. Perhaps no player benefited more from Jones' checkdown tendencies in New York than as a Giant than Wan'Dale Robinson. Before Jones' departure with the Giants, Robinson was pacing for 90 catches, which is about what he did. Whereas Robinson is more of a run-after-the-catch compiler and a bit of a gadget player, Downs is a certified stud receiver who can win at every level of the defense. While the fear of Downs missing time is real, he is only 171 pounds. That risk is minimized as a back-end wide receiver 4 in drafts right now. He has legit wide receiver 2 upside when he plays with a competent quarterback. I don't want to say Jones is a competent quarterback, but I think at the very least he can hit his targets. As we saw last year, competent quarterback being Joe Flacco last year, when the two of those guys played together, we saw Downs post at least 14.2 fantasy points in 5 of Flacco's 7 starts. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think, Mr. IDP?
I like Downs better than Michael Pittman this year. And I was a little surprised when I checked their ADP that Downs is actually coming off the board. I mean, they're like bang, bang. Mm-hmm. Downs is actually coming off the board first. And I think the community is getting hip to it. Yeah, I think Downs has a much higher ceiling. I think Pittman's he's one of those guys that's all floor. And I agree, Danny Dimes is going to be the starting quarterback in Indianapolis, which should be very depressing for Colts fans. But the problem with Anthony Richardson is he can't throw the ball. So when you're a quarterback, it's a little important that you be able to complete a forward pass. and 47% is not going to get it done. But yeah, I like Downs, especially at his ADP. Those are the kind of wide receivers that I love to bang away on in the later rounds, especially if I've gone RB heavy early, which I have a tendency to do.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson is about as accurate as the person who shot that crossbow bolt into your window.
Oh, yeah, that was lovely. Get woke up by the better house, like yelling, and I come downstairs and I look outside and I'm like, what the actual is that?
Yeah, kind of scary. Do you live in the country?
Not really. A suburb of Columbus, Pickerington, Ohio. There was a deer in the backyard last night. So I don't know if some idiot was target shooting and missed and hit the house, or if someone was taking a shot at a deer, which it's not deer season, and missed and hit the house.
Crazy. All right, gentlemen. If you miss on one of those wide receivers, do you guys have any honorable mentions we could get?
Oh, that might be worse than the Amelia Earhart joke. And that joke crashed and burned.
You see what I have to put up with, Gary?
Listen, you're not above being removed from the stage, Gary. You're on timeout. What? I thought we were like on the same team. Like, whatever.
Gary, I know. I
just give some honorable mentions, you curmudgeons.
There's a double word score. That word of the day, toilet paper, is really working out for you, isn't it? Today is curmudgeon.
I am on a roll.
My honorable mentions are Mike Evans, who every year, for some reason, we decide to fade. And he gets, right now, he's, I think, wide receiver 19 or wide receiver 18 or so. That's free. And by the end of the season, he'll be wide receiver 14. He'll go over 1,000 yards, but likely is not catch double-digit touchdowns. And we'll all be like, why did we fade Mike Evans? And Jacoby Myers. Someone explain to me why Jacoby Myers' value is completely went into the toilet. He's got a better quarterback. Yes, Brock Bowers is there, but that didn't stop him last year. And outside Brock Bowers, what exactly do the Raiders have at wide receiver?
Jack Bech and Deontay Thornton. Come on.
Oh, no, wait. They're Jack Beck. Yeah.
Isn't it Dante Thornton?
Deontay, yeah.
And that's a team that might be playing from behind a little. I mean, I don't want to get Raider Nation mad at me. I'm just they're the worst team in the AFC West by a fair margin. So,
all right. Do you have anybody, Doug?
I can't wait either.
Wow. Notice she didn't say she can't wait to see me in Ohio. Okay, I hear you. All right.
That poor woman has to see you often.
Yeah. Great point. I have a handful of guys. I hate to I have a handful of selections. Sorry.
It's okay. I don't judge.
No, so I hate calling Darnell Mooney even a sleeper, or I know we're not doing sleepers, but I mean he's being drafted too late for a guy that has 1,000-yard upside. I think he almost was there last year. The true guys, or at least probably the guys that are going to go in the 10th round or after, barring something crazy in the preseason, Demario Douglas, Jaden Higgins, and Keenan Allen. And I'll just go run through these guys real quick. Demario Douglas, you got Josh McDaniels back in New England. He loves the slot. I don't think Efron Chisholm is going to be quite the guy yet this year, so I don't think we have to worry about Douglas losing slot targets quite yet. Jaden Higgins, enough people have probably heard about what he's done in the offseason. I wouldn't be stunned if he finishes top 30. And then Keenan Allen, the only reason I mentioned Keenan Allen, you almost know he's going to sign somewhere. And I don't know what his ADP right now is, but I'm sure it's not I'm sure he's probably going outside the top 50 receivers.
He'll sign during the Kings Classic drafts.
Yeah. What the old Josh Gordon move, right?
Yeah.
every year like clockwork, there was Josh Gordon news. I think the first 3 years of Team Kings Classic, it was either a suspension for Josh Gordon or him signing with somebody. It was amazing.
Sean would like to throw in Christian Kirk to the discussion. Yep, nobody. No.
I think anybody.
There's a lot of mouths to feed in Houston.
There are.
My only apprehension there is that Jalen Noel is good enough prospect that he could eventually edge out Kirk and maybe second half of the season. But as far as first half, for where you can get Kirk right now, you'd be happy to have him as a wide receiver 4 flex type of in those 3 receiver start leagues. Yeah.
I may have just called Christian Kirk the most overpaid wide receiver in the NFL in an article. I may have, theoretically.
May have.
Might be publishing tomorrow. Oh, nothing makes my Twitter feed happier than the most overpaid player at each position. So I'm going to make like 12 different teams mad at me tomorrow.
I don't want to be as famous as you, Gary, but you did a post the other day, and I was like, oh, I'm going to hop into his replies and just write something nice. And the first 2 replies to you were so goddamn vulgar and mean. And I was
like, you should have seen back when Bleacher Report, the site, still had a comment section in the articles. Oh my God. I don't read the comments anymore. And if someone on Twitter wants to get vulgar and everything, I don't block them because I don't want to give them the satisfaction of being blocked, but I'll just mute them and they can scream at nothing forever.
Yeah. It was shocking.
My fans, man.
Man, with fans like that, who needs Doug's? All right.
That's true. He's supposed to be my friend. See, I get it from everywhere. I get it from my strangers, my friends, my family, nothing but abuse. And I'm tired of it.
It's okay, buddy.
It's a lot, JJ.
Well, I'd support you more, but you made fun of my joke. So
I'm traumatized. Well, it was a terrible joke.
To be fair, it was. All right. Well, let's go to the position that's had the most upheaval in the past 3 days. Tight ends. Yeah, crazy times. Do you have a league-winning tight end, Gary, or are we just not drafting any?
I've talked about Evan Ingram so much already this summer that he's doomed. So I feel bad for talking him up again, but I think he's going to have a significant role in Sean Payton's offense. Obviously, they brought him in to be the joker, whatever that means. Last year sucked. I mean, he missed half the year, and I don't even think he cleared 400 receiving yards. But the year before that, he caught 114 passes and had more fantasy points than any tight end in the AFC, including Travis Kelce. So, if you're not willing to pay retail for one of those, for me, it's 3 guys, Bowers, McBride, and Kittle. If you're not willing to pay retail for those guys, then I would rather wait until TE9, TE10 and go for a guy like Ingram.
What about you, Doug?
Absolutely. If I'm not getting one of those first 3 tight ends, Ingram's probably going to be my target in the, I'm going to say 6th, 7th round range. You can. I remember making a fair amount of money last year getting Kittle in the 7th round. I'm not going to say that the 2 are the same, but I think the value is roughly the same. The problem, not the problem, but the concern with Ingram year after year is his susceptibility to injury. But there's a definite reason why Denver sought out Evan Ingram, and I wouldn't be shocked at 80 catches. I really wouldn't. I think he's got huge upside.
All right, who is your league winner?
Yeah, well, Gary stole mine, so screw you, Gary.
Oh, screw you guys. I'm going home.
Wish.
I wish. Tucker Kraft is coming off the board as the tight end 12 in the early part of the 11th round of early drafts. Considering he finished last season as the tight end 10, probably doesn't sound like Kraft is all that mispriced, or a potential league winner for that matter. Here's why I think that could be a mistake. Luke Musgrave logged at least 17 snaps in each of the first 4 games of the last season before bowing out of the last week 4 with the ankle injury that sidelined him for about 3 months. Beginning with that game and going through the end of the fantasy season, Kraft was then the tight end 8. For the season, he saw more red zone targets than any other Packer. Also, no tight end did more damage after the catch in 2024 than Tucker Kraft. Bear with me on this one. His 8.8 yards after the catch per reception last year were the most by the tight end with at least 50 targets since George Kittle averaged 9.9 in 2018. In fact, no tight end since Kittle averaged more than 7 yards after contact per reception until Kraft did it last year. Both head coach Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love have suggested that Kraft needs to be more of a focal point for the offense as well in offseason interviews. But LaFleur in particular noted that Kraft should see more work downfield, which checks out. Here's another mind-blowing one for you. Kraft's ADOT last season was 4.7, which means he had the very rare distinction of having a yards after the catch per reception that was almost double of his ADOT. LaFleur did not dismiss the possibility of Kraft becoming the next George Kittle, but that's not quite go there yet in terms of what I think his upside or what anybody should think his upside is. With that said, it is within Kraft's range of outcomes that he leads the team in receptions as the only Green Bay pass catcher likely to be a true full-time player. With players like Travis Kelce and Zach Ertz likely to regress a bit more given their age, and Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith likely to cancel each other out, there are at least 4 top 10 tight ends from last season who might struggle to repeat their top 10 tight end finishes. Even if Kraft only adds 10 more catches to last year's 50 and keeps his yardage and total and touchdowns totals about the same, it would almost match what Sam Laporta did on his way to a tight end 7 finish last year. And that's great value in the 11th round. You going to bash me on this one, Gary? Or are you?
No, not at all. I like Kraft. Like you said, the yak numbers are off the charts. He gets a little more red zone usage, and bam, you're in the top 10. And like you said, tight end is such a mess this year. So honestly, I don't know if I necessarily want to pay retail for the top 3 guys. And if I do, it will probably be Kittle, if only because he's substantially cheaper than Bowers and McBride is.
Right.
If I can't get that guy, then I'm going to wait. And then if I can't get Ingram, I'm just waiting that much longer and targeting guys like Kraft and my next recommendation.
Who is who?
Who is?
We actually already mentioned him, Jake Ferguson in Dallas.
Yes.
Tight end 9 2 years ago. Last year he got hurt. Dak Prescott got hurt. Everything in Dallas went to poo. Why can't he do this year what he did 2 years ago? And again, I think the Cowboys are going to be one of, if not the most pass-heavy team in the National Football League. So if you're throwing or catching passes in Dallas, provided you can stay on the field, odds are it's going to be a good year. Now, I don't know if CeeDee Lamb's going to exceed his ADP just because it's a little lofty. But the other guys, there's a lot of value to be had in Dallas this year.
I like that pick. I am shocked to see him going in the, 12th round?
Wow.
It's very low for Ferguson, or Turd Ferguson, as our buddy Brian Drake calls him. Who is your next tight end?
Yeah, it seems like all I've been doing is agreeing with Gary all night, and that makes me sick to my stomach, but that's neither here nor there. But as far as Dak, we were talking about Dak Prescott earlier. I'm doing this from memory, but I'm thinking there's only been maybe 2 years where his tight end hasn't been, maybe it's 3.5 for last year, but where his tight end wasn't like a top 12, top 13 finisher. I might have that wrong. It might be top 10. There's quarterbacks that love their tight ends, and Prescott's one of them, and we already saw it from Ferguson. So he had a couple of injuries. He had a concussion, and I think then he had a lower body injury that I don't know if it was an ankle or a knee. I think it was a knee right away to begin the season. So I'm not sure that he was healthy to begin with anyway. So sorry. My guy, I'll stop short of saying that 30-year-old Hunter Henry will be a true league winner, although the possibility of it happening is probably better than most people realize. Henry is being drafted as a 20th tight end in the 13th or 14th round range, yet is coming off a tight end 11 finish and his best fantasy finish since 2021. Furthermore, he is attached to a guy that Gary mentioned kind of in passing, one of the quarterbacks that seems to be among the top many sleeper list. Speaking of Drake May, let me give you an idea of what happened to Hunter Henry once Drake May took over last season. In the 11 games Henry and May played together, Henry scored at least 9 fantasy points 8 times and at least 12 fantasy points 6 times. Henry did that on a bad offense with very little in the way of threats at receiver. What do we have? Kayshon Boutte and Kendrick Bourne. What else did we have there? So not great. If we exclude the one game in which Henry played only about a half of the team snaps in Week 17, Henry was the tight end 9 in the 10 full games that Henry played with May. One more kind of split, and then we'll go on to the honorable mentions here. Henry was on a 54 game pace with Jacoby Brissett as the starter, but a 77 catch pace with Drake May. Even if Henry settles for last year's 66 receptions, which is basically right in the middle, he seems very likely to beat last year's 2 touchdown catches in what should be a much better offense. While he may not be the tight end that single-handedly decides weeks in fantasy, there's a ton of value in landing a starting fantasy tight end near the end of drafts. Any slander for Hunter Henry?
Not really. I mean, honestly, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and 2 years ago, I'd have got committed for saying it. I might rather have Hunter Henry for free than what I have to pay for Travis Kelce this year.
Ooh, wow, yeah.
That's fair. Is it? Wait, do you agree with that, Doug?
It's closer. I haven't really thought about it, but it's certainly closer than, just like I said, 2 years ago, you've been drug out and shot for it probably. But yeah, that's actually that's about right, actually. Because I do think Hunter Henry has 70 catch upside in a decent offense. You give him 4 or 5 touchdowns.
He's free. Whereas Kelce, you're still paying for the name.
Yep. Based on where you can get him. Yep. I agree. Definitely agree.
All right, gentlemen. Let's finish up with some tight end honorable mentions. Rapid fire. Gary Davenport, give me a guy and why.
I only have one because I couldn't bring myself to come up with a second after I thought it up. Kyle Pitts. God help me, Kyle Pitts. He's like 18th or 19th among tight ends. He had 1,000 yards as a rookie. He's the highest drafted tight end ever. Eventually, either he's going to learn how to play football or someone's going to learn how to use him right, or he's going to burst into flames. Something's got to give. I know it hurts me too. Every time I think, and I'm going to wind up drafting him on purpose.
Dear Lord.
Yeah, I know. I'm losing.
Doug, can you rescue us? I can't believe I'm turning to Doug for help.
What are you thinking? I've talked about Britton Strange enough on the pod here. I think he's one that's going way too late. So I'll go deeper than that. I think that would be Elijah Royal. And the reason I say that is there is a non-zero. In fact, I would say there's a pretty good chance that Noah Fant isn't going to be on the Seahawks at the end of the summer. And if that's the case, you're talking about somebody here who the coaching staff says that thinks that can run some of DK Metcalf's X receiver routes. That's the kind of athlete you're getting here. Usually you don't go crazy about rookie tight ends, but when you have elite athletes like a Royal, that gives you a chance.
Are you saying Noah Fant isn't worth $10.5 million a year?
I'm not saying anything. I'm not a GM yet.
Yet.
Yeah. Love how I threw that in there.
The power of yet.
Yeah.
Noah Fant is being drafted ahead of Theo Johnson, which kind of shocked me when I saw that today.
And I'll say this too. Now that we have a little time, I'll say Aronde Gadsden. Because the buzz on him will percolate this in preseason. I almost guarantee it. So, yeah. So I gave you 3 there. I saved you from Gary.
Nothing can save you from Gary.
Nothing can save you from Gary.
I am inevitable.
You are. You are. All right. You dorks. It is about time to say goodbye. Thank the Lord. A big thank you to Gary for his time. And I was going to say for helping me keep Doug in check, but you really came after me more than Doug, and I can't believe I'm saying that.
Oh, I'm saving the August will be here soon.
Okay.
Some
have said, people are saying you've gone soft in your old age, Gary.
Well,
that you're too nice. Like you're the new, kinder, gentler Gary Davenport.
Fantasy Santa Claus. Fantasy Santa Claus.
Not even close to being possible, but
all right, Gary, let the people know where they can find you and anything that you are working on.
Oh, Bleacher Report, Football Guys. Going to start doing some more stuff for The Athletic as we move farther into the summer. Just follow me on Twitter at IDP Godfather.
All right, Doug.
You see the handle, same as it's ever been. I think I did the first of 2 defensive articles this week, just basically outlining. I gave grades to all the AFC defenders, and that helps set the floor for my the matchup analysis that I'm going to do over the next month.
All right. Thank you to everybody for listening. Sniper Mel was great. Sean Teague was in there. Carla, all the crew. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. I'm at JJ Wenner on all the socials. You can follow the pod at FF Diehards on X. We're going to be back next Wednesday at 8 p.m. with the FF lawyer and auction king, Drew Davenport, this guy's older brother, to discuss all things fantasy. Oh, he's not going to. I don't think he listened. He's not going to like that.
No, he won't.
But until then, remember, love yourself, know your worth. You are enough. Boat drinks, my friends. Boat drinks.